Good afternoon. My name is Reza Mohammed, and I'm the founder of Scoutset. Scoutset is a web application that allows coaches to prepare and organize their teams before they go to play games. When we look at the athletic environment and consider the 5 major sports, football, basketball, soccer, hockey, and baseball, it is a $35 billion industry. College coaches have tremendous pressure to win, and they're looking for anything that would give them a competitive advantage. However, they face many problems. The NCAA regulates that college coaches can only spend 20 hours a week with their players, and this 20 hours encompasses strength and conditioning, practices, workouts, film sessions, and walkthroughs. Beyond that, teams have quick turnaround between games, and this is especially true in the NBA, where they play 82 games and have several back-to-back games. Coaches go out and get film tape on their opponents so that they can scout their opponents before they go and play them. When they do this, they create what's called a scouting report. These scouting reports are then printed out and then shared with their players. The game film is then clipped into little pieces and shared with their players on DVDs. Scouting reports are really essential for a team. If you have any doubt about that, you just need to ask Bill Belichick and Spygate. Just to put into context what scouting report is, this is a small excerpt. Basically, it just has some of the tendencies, what players tend to do, what their strengths are. Teams would look at this and really study their players before they go out and face them. Scouting reports also have play diagrammed out as it's shown here. Basically, these are the plays that the quarterback or the point guard would call out during a game. A scouting report also has statistics which shows who their best free throw shooters are or who their best players are, and this relates to football too, in whatever context it may be. Beyond this, scouting reports also have other information as coaches see fit. Scoutset is a cloud-based web application powered by Microsoft Azure, which stores all this information on the cloud. By using a rich user interface that's provided by Silverlight, coaches can log in via just a web browser and a dumb terminal from anywhere in the world and access the information. By using the Azure cloud, coaches can upload their videos and players can access it from anywhere, as well as share it with other coaches. The Silverlight UI provides coaches the ability to create scouting reports directly over the web, while they could be on a bus using 4G or on a plane with the new Wi-Fi capabilities that's available. Basically, we're taking the technology burden out of the coach's hands. Just to give you an idea of the business model that currently exists, coaches create the scouting reports, they print them out, and then they burn game tape onto DVDs. These game tapes are then viewed by the teams in film sessions. Sometimes other coaches from other teams may want to access these scouting reports if they have the same opponents. Typically, these are FedEx out to the coaches if they so require. Scoutset changes the sharing model by having Windows Azure as a platform to access this information. Players can log in from their dorm rooms or be it when they're traveling, and this doesn't eat into their 20-hour-a-week NCAA regulation of spending time with their coaches. Further, when professional teams are on the road, they can access this information via an iPad or something like that, or directly over their plane's Wi-Fi capabilities. Other college coaches can also request scouting reports from other teams, just like you would send a friend request on Facebook. At the University of Vermont, I was the manager of the men's basketball team. I was fortunate to be the manager at the University of Vermont program that went to the NCAA tournament for the first time in its history, and then we repeated that feat twice after that. My culmination was a first-round victory over Syracuse and eventually losing out to Michigan State. Since graduating from University of Vermont, I've been a lead software engineer at GE Healthcare working on business intelligence applications. At SMU, I'm the Vice President of the Student Advisory Board for the Professional MBA program. My business partner is Ryan Johnson, who you'd get to meet very shortly. He is a native Texan and attended the University of Texas at Austin. He brings a wide variety of brand management, marketing, and advertising expertise. Ryan worked at the Richards Group as a client manager and is currently a brand manager at Expedia. He's also the founder of the Sports Marketing Club at SMU. So why us? Basically, there's not a whole lot of people who have the behind-the-scenes knowledge of how a college athletic team works. That's where I come in. I've worked with teams, I've been on recruiting trips. This is something that you can't just go out and get from anyone. I also have the software engineering expertise and have worked with the Microsoft platform since working at GE and through college. I also have built a lot of relationships with coaches that we did reach out to as well when we did the marketing research, that they were all interested in the product. This is something very handy. You also got to take into account that there's a lot of hiring and firing of coaches that happens at the end of the year. So that tree relationships tends to grow. On a technology point, in January, we just got accepted to the Microsoft BizSpark program. The Microsoft BizSpark program is a program which provides us with software, hardware, and education for 3 years at absolutely no cost. Basically, we value BizSpark at about $35,000, and that's $35,000 that we don't need from investors for technology. The BizSpark program also gives us access to network partners, specifically investors and other folks with technical background that can help build our startup into a premier software application. I've done a lot of the technical heavy lifting, so I'm going to hand it over to Ryan, who's going to talk about marketing and sales.
Good afternoon. What Reza probably failed to tell you is that we're both very different individuals from a standpoint of upbringing as far as and experience. Reza comes from a very technical background. I'm more marketing savvy. What unites us is both that we have a great passion for sports, and we feel that we can spearhead this initiative from two different angles to make it a successful product. So when implementing a marketing strategy, we first wanted to conduct research. We did this in two ways. We first conducted one-on-one interviews with representatives from the Tulsa Shock WNBA team, SMU, the University of Vermont men's and basketball coaches, as well as the Dallas Stars and Dallas Mavericks. Our research indicated that there was antiquated techniques with sharing of this information in paper format, and we also received great feedback from a product development standpoint, emphasizing the need for a rich user interface for both coaches and athletes. From a secondary research standpoint, we looked at information from the post-secondary education database. We looked at revenues by different NCAA classifications as well as different teams. From that information, we created a target market that would consist of NCAA Division I schools and professional teams. It's important to note that of the 15 different classifications of NCAA teams, NCAA Division I schools make up 75% of the revenue and expenses. This can be brought out to be 2,287 teams encompassing these 5 sports in both men's and women's teams. Now, in order to penetrate the market, we projected the necessary target capture rates to meet our financial projections. We were able to have in-depth meetings with the marketing and sales director for a company called Scoutset. Scoutset sells a very different product where they provide CRM database management to college coaches, but their target market is exactly the same. So we felt this was a great benchmark and best practices in order to acquire teams at the same rate they did from a standpoint of 10 schools, 50 schools, and 100 schools. From a sales standpoint, this matrix gives you an idea of how we intend to reach out to different teams on an individual basis. We want to start with teams that can bring in potentially high revenue based on a tiered pricing strategy we would implement based on the size of the program. And we would reach out to these specific entities first in our sales strategy. As we intend to penetrate this market, there are 4 different ways in which Scoutset can bring in revenue. The biggest is being an annual subscription fee that would be in the range of $4,000 to $10,000 depending on size and NCAA versus professional classification. We also think there's a great opportunity once we penetrated these entities, and that we can provide add-ons for team travel and hotel bookings. This would be implementing a booking widget on the Scoutset platform so that Director of Operations could book their team travel and we could take a percentage of that revenue. We also think there's a great potential to do an add-on for strength and conditioning coaches at professional and college teams as they manage the weightlifting and cardiovascular activities of their athletes. Finally, there's a small opportunity to bring in revenue from a customization standpoint if there are ad hoc requests from specific coaches, or if we needed to add new logos or make something specific to a player. When looking at competition in the market, it is important to note that no one else in the sports industry is utilizing a cloud-based solution. We can classify competitors into three different areas: video editing, play diagramming, and content sharing. Our content sharing competitors of FastShare and Synergy Sports utilize an intranet in order to share information. This information includes extensive video archives and plays that they've diagrammed. However, we feel we can have a sustainable competitive advantage in three different ways. The first way is that we intend to implement a patent for the product. The second way is that we want to develop the rich user interface that is very strong to both athletes and coaches who aren't necessarily computer literate. And third, the biggest opportunity for Scoutset is that if it's a platform that all coaches are on, there's a need for everyone to get on in order to share information. Some important milestones to note: we have conducted a search for a patent in this specific arena, and we feel that there is an opportunity to file. We've developed a prototype to date. We were accepted into the Microsoft BizSpark program, and we have begun the filing of a provisional patent. In summary, this slide outlines the financial expectations that we have based upon the target capture rates, which I outlined in our marketing program. Some important notes is that by year 3, we expect to have revenues of around $618,000 with a pre-tax profit of over $400,000. In closing, we're asking for an equity investment of $400,000 in order to build our product and maintain a sales force for Scoutset. We'd love to continue the conversations with you in order to make Scoutset the premier scouting tool in professional and college sports. Thank you for your time, and I'd like to open the floor to questions.
So how big is the market?
If you take the market as a whole, we're only concentrating with college.
Just dollars.
35 billion.
Billion?
Billion. B.
So there's $35 billion that can be spent on your product.
There's 35 billion, yes, because basically every team is trying to spend as much as they can to win and use that money. Basically use that money to win. That's basically the bottom line.
I guess I do the math differently when I look at number of universities that could spend money on this and dollars that you guys are going to charge them.
Yeah.
I can't get to that number.
So we're only charging anywhere from $2,500 to $10,000 based on a tiered pricing strategy on a school. And this is exactly the same pricing model that Scoutware uses. We got that information from the Director of Marketing and Sales. So based on that information, we came up with our pricing strategy and how much it would take for us to actually implement this in terms of man hours and technology.
Okay. And what's your guys' goal here? Is your guys' goal to sell this company someday, or to have a business where you're making money and making a good salary? What's the overall goal?
So I'm actually the founder. I've been working on this since 2005. You know, a lot of companies have a 5 or 10-year plan. I actually have a 300-year plan, and I'm looking at this, you know, really.
You figure out how to do that, let me know.
Yeah, I mean, you really gotta like look at it in the long run, you know, and creating strategic partnerships, whatever it may be. I'm really looking at it in a long-term stretch.
Okay. So how do investors actually make money on it then?
By year 6, I'm hoping to provide a return on investment for the investors. We're planning on making strategic partnerships with entities like Nike or Under Armour, who already sponsor college teams. And by college teams or even pro teams winning more, getting to the NCAA Final Four or Super Bowls or whatever it may be, their brand is on the media a lot more, and they make that money back in merchandise.
I think it's a very cool idea. I think you're on the cutting edge of some interesting things that are happening, cloud computing, video, and things such as that. I push you guys to maybe think about different pricing models and things like that where you can capture it. And it sounds like you're on the right ideas as far as partnerships and stuff. I bet you could actually give it away for the first few years to build your community and get Gatorade, Nike, and all those guys paid just to reach the constituents that you're going to be in your communities.
Yeah, we actually looked at it in two ways, because we looked at it in a way where, you know, Gatorade or whoever it may be would actually pay us to provide the software to the teams, because at the end of the day, they're going to, you know, win and they're going to have their name. This is kind of like a behind-the-scenes thing. A lot of people, the general public's not even going to know what scouting is, and they get it mixed up with recruiting.
Second sort of Tom's comments, I think it's an interesting idea, and one that your domain expertise for both of you comes out, both in the quality of your business plan, although it was a little heavier than that in my briefcase. But I think I think a caution is when you position yourself as a cloud company, that's a delivery vehicle for your solution. So you don't want to you can't differentiate yourself as a cloud company, because just like the SaaS companies before you, that's not your core competency. I think so emphasizing sort of what you're going to provide in terms of solution is important. And I think Ryan's, I wanted to ask you a question about sort of, you talked about the three areas where you thought you were going to have differentiation over your existing competition, the guys who sort of own that space today, particularly in the upper right-hand corner, Synergy, Dashare. What's going to prevent them from basically changing the way they deliver their content today? Even if it's antiquated and it looks like old enterprise software that sits on somebody's desk that they have to punch DVDs and mail them to. If they have a strong customer base today, and they have the ability to take that content and repurpose it, just like Microsoft helped you do the same thing, what is it that's going to keep them from having lots of guys saying, hey, Reza and Ryan had this great idea, but we're going to go actually beat them to the punch because we already have customers?
I think the issue is that, you know, the paper scouts and the DVDs, when they hand it over to a player, and I'm telling this from personal experience, it never even leaves the locker room. Like, players just trash the scouting reports or never look at it. And there's a couple of players who actually want to get that extra information. They would go out and say, hey, coach, give me that extra information. But they have to actually go out. So by having it on the cloud, you can basically access it.
Yeah, now my question is, what's going to keep them from copying your idea?
What's going to keep them from copying our idea? Well, we're looking at actually filing a patent, and I know that's not going to hold a whole lot of weight, but basically, just like how Facebook has a stronghold over MySpace, you know, by making users upload more and more content, they're kind of like sucked in. They can't just say, oh, I'm going to go join the next social networking site because my content's already here. So we're really trying to push it from the get-go to get all the content on our site so that basically they have to stay on it.
So I think going by your market size, I think there may be a mismatch. But are you saying that a program would spend between $2,000 and $10,000 on a subscription, and then all the team members can log in, or each team member spends $10,000?
So it's a one-time subscription fee of maybe $10,000.
Okay.
But just to put that into perspective, SMU, when I had a talk with the SMU coaches, they spend $500,000 a year on scouting.
Okay.
Just to put that in perspective. I was shocked, honestly, because that was that wasn't a number that I was really, expecting, but I was really shocked.
And when you, by the way, I think this is a really interesting idea, but when you're saying that these scouting reports are shared, I can understand that if I'm playing against Vermont and I guess somebody calls me up and say, hey, I'm playing against Vermont, can you send me your scouting report? I'm just trying to figure out what happens once everyone can get any one of these scouting reports and who's willing to share. Because at some point, I'm going to be interested in getting wrong scouting reports about myself out there. or I'm going to see my own. So is this really something that's completely scalable?
Typically, you know, how the sharing works is basically within a coach's fraternal network, you know, if some coach knows someone else and they're playing a non-conference game, they can tend to ask scouting reports or whatever it may be. And, you know, if you take Division I as a whole, you know, 340 schools, they don't necessarily play each other or whatever it may be, so there's absolutely no reason to not share the scouting report. And it's a common practice. You know, I mean, it's just something that a coach can just call them up and say, hey, I'm playing this guy, I've never even seen this team before.
It's very common practice in both professional sports and college sports. Reza can speak better to the college sports, but in the interviews we did with the Dallas Stars, for example, as long as it's not a same-night opponent, the team managers, video coordinators, and assistant coaches, they all know each other between the different teams, so it's very common practice to reach out to someone and say, I'm playing the New York Rangers tonight. Do you have any updated game info? You played them 3 days ago that you can send us that we can use.
So I take it from your response that SMU spends more money than the University of Vermont does.
So University of Vermont only spent $15,000, which I'm embarrassed, but.
Yeah. Have you, following up on Tom's point, have you looked at how much it would cost to just distribute it free for a period of time, and how much it would cost to maintain it and run that, to get people locked in and to expose it, to give you kind of get a first mover advantage?
I've looked at that, and you know, in an expense point of view, the salaries are a big upfront cost for me, and I couldn't figure out how to actually subsidize it without having some kind of revenue, at least through year 1, going into year 2 and 3, to reach a profitable return on investment for the investors, which was a big factor when I said, hey, let's not do it free. But what we did do is, for the first year that the programs that get in, we don't charge them a setup fee.